All right, now let's take a look at the vocabulary that fits with section 2. Now, for those that don't have the scaffold in front of you to fill out, please make sure you're writing down the term, the full definition, and any sketch we come up with to go with it. It's not enough just to have one part or the other. You need to be visualizing these as well. When I talk about length, I'm referring to the distance between the endpoints of a segment. So if I think of a number line marked off in parts, and I talk about this segment right here, I can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 units along there. The distance between those two endpoints of this segment, so dot, dot, line, there's my segment. The length of that segment is 4 units. Congruent. Having the same shape and size. Denoted by a squiggle over an equal sign. So for example, I can talk about how segment AB is congruent to segment DE. What that means is that those two segments, there's one, we'll call that segment AB. That segment is the same size and shape as this segment, DE. Now they don't have to be oriented the same, they can be twisted. The important thing is that if I were to move one so it overlaps the other, they perfectly cover each other up. We're going to be doing some explorations with that this week, where we'll actually be seeing if things are congruent by moving paper around to see what overlaps and what doesn't. Congruent segments would be two segments that have the same length. And that's what we used to illustrate length. That's what we use to illustrate congruent. Midpoint. A point, actually let me slide this down. There you go, put that up there at the top so it's a little easier for y'all to see. Midpoint. A point that divides a segment into two equal segments. The key is to think about midpoint as being in the middle. So here's a segment. This is going to cut it in half. It's going to create two parts that are the same length. So this length is the same as that length. That's what these single hash marks represent. Those tick marks there are ways of showing that things are the same length. Bisects. This is going to be a segment, a point, or line. Let's start that over. A shape that divides into two equal parts. The important thing about bisect is that you create two things from it. That's where the word bi comes in. Sect means to cut. So let's say I have an angle. I can bisect it into two equal angles. So maybe this angle is 30, that angle is 30. This ray here in the middle bisects it. It doesn't have to be a line or a ray. It can be a plane, can bisect something. It's anything that divides something else into two equal parts. Lastly, we'll talk segment bisector. A line, ray, or segment that divides a segment into two equal segments. Actually, we'll say two congruent segments. So here's my segment. Here's a line that comes through it, and it creates two congruent parts. Thus, this line is my segment bisector. All right, there's your vocab for 1-2.